All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is Coach Ken from Giving It a Try, and we have another episode here with Coach Ryan as we just completed what was kind of my A race trail ultra for the season as my trail season is coming to a little bit of a close. His is just kind of getting started here. We did the Shore2Shore 50K trail run, which is a trail run on Long Island, going from the North Shore to the South Shore. But first, I want to welcome back Ryan. You got the intro from him last time. He's an avid ultra runner. He's a ultra running coach. Had one of his athletes place at this race, which we'll hear about as well. And Ryan, I just want to welcome you back. How you feeling after the race?
I'm coming back pretty sore, actually. I gotta say, quads are feeling it. It was a hot day and a hard effort, so nice way to kick off the year for sure.
Nice. What this is so Shore2Shore 50K. This was the fourth time I did the 50K distance, did the 100K distance last year. I know you did this 50K at least once before because I remember running it with you. I believe this year was your
Yep.
second time back on that course.
Yeah, this is my second 50K. So first time was 2 years ago. I did it with you. It was about 2.5 weeks after my first 100. Wheels fell off about halfway through. We have an infamous picture that we'd like to see where you just see me kind of falling off. Never could have a spring gel again. Had a bad gel. Never realized they went bad, and that did not go well for me. So this was like decided to come back this year. Last year I had other things I was dialing in for, so I couldn't make it. And I think I just paced you guys last year when you were doing the 70K and 100K, and but this year I wanted to come back, kick off my season, my trail season with it. I've already done plenty of races since then, since before this. But yeah, it's a great race. It's local. It's our local trail systems that we run on all the time, and out there with so many good friends and really just great community.
Yeah, this is a point-to-point race, North Shore to South Shore, Long Island. The cool thing about it, if you know anything about Long Island, or if you're not from Long Island, uh, surrounded by water, we're an island. You're running from the North Shore to the South Shore, and it's an intertwining connection of some roads, some trail, different parks you're going through. And the good part about this race, it's a runnable 5K, especially if you've trained up for that distance or you're coming back to that distance. Like this isn't your first time doing it, where you're just trying to finish it and set the standard for the distance. It can be a pretty competitive race, especially for the locals, because it is a trail that we do frequent training throughout the year. And it kind of is like what
Yep.
I almost quote now is like the Super Bowl of ultras here on Long Island for the people that live here. Like we train, we do these other
Yeah.
races, and then boom, it's when Shore2Shore comes around, it's like who's doing the 50K this year and who's going toe to toe on the start line.
Yeah, and that's what excited me this year. I mean, historically I do a lot of these like longer efforts, hundreds and 50s, and they tend to be in the mountains. So they are runnable. People run them, people crush them. But for the mere humans, there's still some power hiking up the ledges and things of that nature. One of the things that really intrigued me this year in trying to become more versatile is starting with the road marathon earlier in the year, and doing even a marathon as a training run for this, and then training around that effort. But coming into this, like trying to run the 50K, it's an interesting distance it's like I guess the half marathon of ultras, right? So it's you kind of it is all runnable, but it's also you got to pace it right, or you could blow up. And I felt that the first time I did it, and wheels started coming off a bit at the end, but we'll get into that.
I think you hit it right because with this race, the key is pacing because they're at a certain level with the people that ran this race. Those up front towards the front. It's runnable in the fact that like there's no real sections where you're like, all right, this is a real super climb. And I think even that during our pacing that we came up with for this, because we basically had the same pacing plan about going into it, was we really didn't have any section where we're like, all right, that's the section we're going to walk because it's such an incline. It was only like that one really
Mhm.
hill coming out of the 1A stage, which we'll hit, which we really plan to like, hey, let's just chill, let's just walk for this little distance here so we don't burn our quads out. But outside of that, like if you pace it right and you have the fitness and the ability, like you can actually run this thing from start to finish. And that's why some people do so well here and put up such great trail 50K times for it, which is quite outstanding. We trained together
Yeah.
for it. We prepped together. We ran a road marathon together in January. We were out there half marathon and marathon, road run again. Again, just getting the feet running these long distances, preparing
W-
for
w-
this day, and kind of had a pace and
We
plan
did a long,
together. You know.
yeah, we did a long run on course with a group of our with our local group, the Long Island Endurance Collective, right? We ran, um, I think early in January, I think it was, right, or February. Um, just a slow, kind of easy all day pace deal, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. So we trained well, and we trained with a lot of our friends, and it was awesome to kind of like pace them out there, you know.
And Amy, who you might have seen in some of the other YouTube videos, she won her marathon that we ran when she Boston qualified in January. She was basically on board with it. She signed up a little bit later on, and then we kind of all decided like our goals are kind of all similar here, so let's kind of go out together, and you'll see how that played out and how
Yep.
that kind of worked for everybody. So leading into race week now, um, you know, you seen my video come out this past week. Kind of crappy on my end. Literally was just felt like shit going into the end of the week. My son got me sick. Thursday night I had a fever. I shook it Friday morning. I think I spoke to you on the phone. I was still on the fence Friday around 11 o'clock in the morning when we spoke. I was outside in the sun. I kind of felt coming around. No fever back. Had gotten my bib, picked everything up, but I mean, if the race was Friday, there was no way I was be able to do it. But for me internally as well, out of all my races, believe it or not, over the past 8 years or so, and I've done many, many road races. I'm a road runner at heart, triathlon, triathlete. Like any race I've ever signed up for, regardless of a mile, 5K, whatever, I've never had a DNS. And knock on wood, I've never had a DNF. So that was weighing on me a little bit. Not that it's an ego thing. It's just, you know, I'm like, damn, this might be the
You got
one.
standards.
This might be
You
the
got
one
stand.
though.
You,
But
yeah,
come hell or high
yeah,
water that morning, you saw my beginning of my video. I kind of was still feeling like crap, but I was like, you know what? We're gonna at least get the damn thing started. We're not gonna have a DNS at least due to this, and let the chips fall the way they do when we get out there. We're definitely at least gonna damn try the thing.
yeah.
So how'd you feel though going into race day? As far as well, actually, I'll let you tell the
So
story about how your week was going leading up to it.
yeah. So like race week was a little rough, and I would actually roll back the week before race week was even rougher. I kind of had an amazing training week, and then that weekend I decided to go to New York City, had a bachelor party, rolled into my house at like 4 a.m., woke up at like 4:50 or whatever. I only had like an hour's sleep. Jumped in my friend's car, drove up to a mountain, and we did like a half marathon preview at like it was like 4,000 something feet of climbing, and it was gnarly. And that kind of blew me up. And then I had to do some work travel. So that week I kind of just like I was tapering early, and then I decided to I picked it up towards the end of the week. Got myself together. We did our last long run as a group on Sunday, and after that run, Monday, I had a giant like after that run that night, like I had a knot in my calf, which then was like I went to war with for 2 days. Just like get this thing out. That happens with every taper. Pains start. So it started moving, and we don't want to give the pain a name. So I'm not like really telling anyone. I'm just quietly, sitting here in my house, not talking to anyone. And then I'm like, I squared that up, acupuncture roll. I threw everything at it, and kind of just really just did a proper taper, which you guys always yell at me about. I like to run into races a lot. I could get pretty aggressive about it, and I've been doing this trial for miles, kind of experiment on myself a bit this year, earlier part of this year, and so. But this one, I was kind of like, okay, let me roll into it, see how it goes. And it went well. I mean, I kind of met up with Nikki every day, who I'm coaching, and we would just hit little sections of the course, little previews, do easy runs, kind of get the mental game lined up. He really helped me out. He was just you see that you have him, if you ever meet him, you get on a trail with this guy, he's always stoked to just be out there running. It's just it's infectious. So we kind of we rolled really nicely into it. And that, yeah, then to race day. And you told me you were like on the fence, and I was like, oh no, no. But you pulled through. So awesome.
Honestly, if it wasn't for the leading up to that, knowing, zooming out overall, like knowing that all the people that we did a lot of training runs with, a lot of people we did the full course preview with earlier in the season, because they were all going to be there, and it's just, again, seeing everybody, like being part of it. And then the fact that you and Amy and myself were going to be like kind of starting this line together, like I kind of felt like, man, if I don't at least give this a shot, like I owe it to them, like, like they're, but so knowing all that got me to the start line, which was just the key to that. And actually, which we'll find out in a few, was like the game changer on how I felt, at least for the race. Was, I mean, I saw you guys get off the shuttle bus in the morning, kind of gave you the wave. I was kind of still just a groggy mess. Missed the group picture. I was just staying away from everybody because I knew it would be a big mass start, and just still felt like crap. And then, game time though, like weather wise, I mean, they were calling for about 70 degrees, beautiful. You know, you couldn't get probably a more perfect day. I mean, yeah, it could have been a little cooler out. Yeah, but good. Like, it is what it is. I'd rather, for myself, actually, the way I
You know,
felt, I felt better being warm in the morning than if I would have been waking up in a 40-degree morning, having to like layer up and shiver and things like that. So, I mean, weather wise, I don't think we could have asked for much better on race morning.
no, we knew it was going to be warm, and it stuck to, and the weather stuck. We knew it was gonna warm up as we progressed through the race that day. As far as the morning, I scooped Amy early. Me and her drove to where the shuttle picked us up. For Amy, she said that was one of the most exciting parts, was jumping on the school bus. So that was fun. And the ride was great. The bus driver did not know where we were going, so we went through like all the back roads to get there. And as you can imagine, race morning, all the fluids, all that stuff. So like you saw us get off the bus, we made it. We made a, we darted right for the bathrooms. But yeah, that's how it goes race morning, right? So yeah, and then we saw all our friends, said the hellos. Nikki's whole fam was out here. And we said hello to them. Just got dialed in. Ended up Justin was there. He was going to help support. So that was pretty cool to know that I had someone to kind of be able to lay out some of my items in at the halfway point and things like that. So yeah, and then we saw you sit in the car ready to roll. So we're like, oh, it's on. Let's rock and roll.
So, first part of this course, as we're getting started here, basically breaks down, and at least in my head, how I compartmentalize this race after doing it a few times is two aid stops. You got your midway, and then you got 4 and 5 in the finish line. So they're broken up pretty evenly throughout the course. It's there's a couple hills or climbs throughout this course, but overall it's not too technical hilly wise, but it is very diverse in the fact that there is runnable trail sections, nice flat soft kind of pine grounds. There's also road sections. There's also very rooty sections, a little bit of muddy sections. So you're kind of getting a wide variety. It's not just one type of trail throughout. But that first stop, now we're talking first beginnings towards the aid stop, is for me like the warm-up point every time I've done this race. Like, get through the first to the aid stop. As soon as you pop out of the trail, hit the first aid stop at the golf course. To me, that's like, all right, this race, it's on now. Like, we warmed up, we're there. We're probably about 45 minutes into the race at that point. For myself leading into that, believe it or not, I actually thought I'd feel a lot worse as I started running, but I started like, like motion is lotion. Like it just, that's what I like doing. I like being out there running, I like being around people that I enjoy being around. And it kind of
Yep.
just being out there in the sun that morning with the sun coming up and the temperature being just perfect. Like, didn't have to put a layer on to shed one, wasn't completely overheating yet. It was just like a perfect temperature to just start running at a decent, easy pace just to get that first section done. So for me, that first section to that first aid stop was kind of like, kind of clicked by pretty quick. We were just kind of following each other, doing our thing. I think a lot of people, though, and rolled out pretty hard at the race. There was a huge group like took off. I don't even know where we
Hmm.
might have been at the first aid stop, but not where we finished. I'll tell you that because there was definitely a lot of people in front of us, which I think played to our advantage because we just rolled through it. At least for my end, how'd you
That's so
feel? How'd you feel
it's
going
always
into
the
it?
game. Yeah, that's always the game. I mean, that's the it's a long day. You start shooting too hard out the gate. You're in for a rough a rough end game. It's going to be rough no matter what, but you're going to be really fighting. So the way I broke it up really was, I think I posted it and everything, but I broke it into like three parts, right? There was a cool video that Tyler Green posted about like how to break up races. And there was actually a good article that Nikki pointed out to me in the latest Ultra Runner Mag about like breaking things into threes. So like the way Tyler like phrased it, because I always like having phrases and stuff that I could like use as anchors to pull me back. And so like remember I kept saying it during the run, like the first two aid stops for me is the calm zone. You're staying calm, you're rolling, right? Then like that second two, you're gonna start to feel the effort a bit. And that's where you're gonna, you gotta just be confident in your training, right? You gotta just kind of just know that you've trained for this and that you got this, right? And then that last piece is complete or compete, whichever wherever you're at. Sometimes it's going to be one of those days where you're just going to the goal is to complete this task, and some days you're going to be competing. And I think that's how I broke it up. But yeah, by that first one, I felt smooth. We were just conversating, having a good time, keeping the pace kind of really easy. We knew we had a bunch going on, and we're all seasoned in this, so we kind of just played it by ear and just kind of it felt like a long run, felt like one of our regular long runs.
And a side note, I know you actually wrote that on your pacing plan. Those
Yep,
what
I did.
the goal of it. I have bigger sections.
Uh,
I kept all my pacing stuff here for as we referenced the video here, but we all
yeah,
came up with ways to like compartmentalize this. Like I this is the bigger version of it. Obviously, I had it a lot smaller in my pocket, but just
yeah,
again gamifying for me it works out huge in these longer course events, even across multi-sport and stuff. It's just compartmentalizing and gamifying each section of the race. Like instead of just first mile out, like, oh my god, I got 30 miles left. Like if you think like that right out the gate, like it's just you're a long day, man. Like I don't think at any point I
nope,
ever zoomed out and looked big picture. It was just always like each chunk of like 5 miles like had its own purpose, had its own structure,
that's
had
it.
its own reminders, had its own, and then hey, check this, on to the next one. Chapter two's done, chapter three's done, and then like you said, you get to the end, and now you have hopefully the choice of where does the final chapter lead. How are we going to finish this thing out, and
Yep,
hopefully on the better end of things. The biggest hill, one of the biggest hills, is coming out of that aid stop. It's actually a road section coming up the golf course. Justin, crew and us caught us kind of walking on that hill, but it was one of those like, it's a long day, like you said. Why am I going to burn my quads out right here? Let's just get up this hill, which is almost as fast as if we were jogging it, and just getting to the top. That's actually a nice road section. At least I like it because, again, I'm a road runner at heart. I can really kind of just focus on my form and my stride and being as efficient as possible on that section. And again, I think that's where Amy found the sprinklers, and was just having and to be able to do that during an event like this, we were having fun still, at that point, joking, laughing,
that
and getting it done.
yeah,
Like,
that's what it's all about. Like that's that ultra culture, right? It's not that like you don't always have to be so serious. Get out there and enjoy. Land snorkeling, right? Like that kind of, you're having a good time, just experiencing everything. Especially when you're running on the roads, and if you're like Amy's a trail runner at heart, I guess, if you ever look at her ultra sign up, it's next level. Uh, so she's an OG. So she showed it right there in the middle of a race, rock and rolling, running through sprinklers.
and even in that, we were, I mean, going into eight stop two, which is, around mile 10, 11 or so, we were just moving. I don't think anyone really had any hiccups or any issues at that point. That eight stop again came up pretty easy. I don't really think, nobody, yeah, I don't think
That
anything
was a
really happened before that.
that was a shift. That was a shift for me, right? Because that's kind of where the wheels started falling off. The My first time I did that race. So once we made it past that point, it was like, oh wow, okay, I feel great still. Game's on. We're gonna do this today, you know.
Actually, yeah. So yeah, as soon as
So
we passed that
yeah,
second ace out, then you were still feeling good. You were still right there, and I was like, all right, this time Ryan's along for the ride. Let's go. Let's just keep going and getting at it. Even for myself at that point, still at the pacing plan I was kind of looking at for the day. Maybe just a couple clicks slower, which again we were still right in that zone because the terrain kind of fluctuates depending on the mile. But overall, we were kind of right there still, even heading into the bigger park, which again for this year was we knew ahead of time was going to be rerouted in Blydenburg Park just because of an unfortunate storm that happened over the last year, washed out one of the bridges. So they actually weren't wanted to loop us around the perimeter of the park and would take off some of the finishing road mileage at the end to make it that 50K, that little bit extra. And just getting into the park, we knew we actually ran it. I think was it the weekend before? Or I know
I ran it. I ran it 3 times. The new version 3 times.
and it's nice
Uh,
because it was more
and
trails and but some runnable trails, at least what the race director threw out there in the GPX file ahead of time, saying that this is going to be the route this year, this is the reroute. And it's a beautiful park,
they were
it
just
really is, and
nice.
it's nice to add that more trail section if that's the way it's going to be from year after year going forward. But yeah, going into the park, I think it was at this point, and I remember like feeling great until we got to the section where the bridge was washed out, which there's like planks you can go over when you're just training, but they didn't want to use it that race day. So when we made the right turn to go around this new reroute for the course this year and got into the new trail, um, I knew something
And
was
there's a
up.
fork.
Yeah, I knew there
Yeah,
was something up
yeah,
when we knew it was going to be a right turn to start, and you're like, it's a right, and I'm like, no, it's not, because I think I was just out in front. You're like, yeah, it is, and I said, no, the flags are going left, and Amy's just like, what is going on right now?
yeah. And that's when we know the trail so well that like going left is a different animal than going right. Going right, it's an incline, but it's just smooth, right? Where going left, now you got roots. And then it kept taking us left, which meant now we're going through the hilly sections that weren't originally there. So now you got these hilly sections, you go through there, and then the part that really got me is when we got around all that, went over the boardwalk, and then we make the left. And instead of going to back to these nice straight flats, they keep you going around the lake on the technical single track. And it wasn't that I was like, I know the trail, I do speed work on that section, stuff like that. But it was like, where are we? How much more is this adding to our this? Like now I'm thinking I started like running out of water a little bit. I'm like, this is a lot more work. And then all like the distance shifts, right? Based off the, different aid stations. Like, okay, this is going to add a mile or two easy and some time. And that got that was like a little mental piece. And Justin had a video where he was recording us, and we're just like he caught us on the way out, and he's like, "What do you guys do?" Well, I remember just saying we're gonna level set when we get out of here, see where we're at, see what what's changed, and that's essentially what we had to do when we hit the road.
Yeah, that first left that we were talking about, again, I had the map on my watch of the GPX file, and I was like, oh, we're taking this little like triangle out back. It's going to add maybe just a tiny little bit. So we did that. So like you said, and then like it never matched the file the whole way around. And now in my head, this course for the last few years has always measured a little longer than 50K. So you get that extra bonus mile and a half. We
Yeah,
kind of like the way I
it's
break
every
down is
trail
like
race.
I take my 50K split time out. That's my 50K time, and then whatever the total time is. But for me, feeling like shit and just kind of like I just want to get whatever mileage done. I get it. We just kind of didn't know at that point then how many miles really is today going to be. Is today going to be 32, 32 and a half, 34, 35? I have no idea. But the last thing I wanted to do was be out there longer than I had to be. So on any given day, if I felt good, I kind of wouldn't really care. But again, it was that first, I think, at least for me, mental punch for the day of like, shit, something's not 100% the way it is in my plan. Which, again, that's part of
That's a
being
perfect way to
resilient,
say it.
you
It was
know.
a mental punch.
So
I'm sorry,
it's
finish your point.
no, it's you got to be a little resilient in the fact that like the perfect plan doesn't always mean that it's going to go. Like you said, your aid stop check-ins and times and going against, certain pace plan you had now are kind of like out the window, because where the hell is the mileage at the next aid stop? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just, I mean, I love it. I hope they keep the course the way it was. It's, it makes it just a little gnarlier, a little bit more of everything, like I wrote in my recap. That's that I really liked it, but that technicality, all that kind of stuff, it added a little bit to it, and it threw some things off. And like you said, a mental punch is exactly what it was. Trail races are notorious; they're never the exact distance they say they are. That's the name of the game. But we survived. We got out of there, and it was just like, when are we getting to the halfway point at this point? Like that was the next question, right?
So the biggest thing is these aid stops are pretty evenly spaced, but with that section added now, it does. It felt like it added so much more time between aid stop 2 and what would be the halfway point, which is now past the halfway point at the third aid stop. So that's just a bigger gap. And again, it's a little more of a technical section. So what some people like to mentally refer to as the halfway point, it's past the halfway point. So you think what you have done up to that point, you have to do again, even though it was a little shorter on the back end. But going into that halfway, it's like finally when we got there, I knew what I had to do. Again, I was refill my pack and just spend a minute there. I think we managed it pretty well, but just getting there was like, oh my God, like that felt like it like took a little bit out of me, at that point. And it started, and everybody dealt with it that day. Everybody, and that's what I kept telling myself is, okay, we got punched, but everybody got punched because of this. It wasn't something we missed. It's not something we didn't read somewhere, like that we knew this was coming. Like everybody had to handle this on race day. So it is what it is.
Yeah, it was well marked and everything. So like, it was like we knew once we got out of there, we knew kind of how much further we had to go. But yeah, it was that. But when I got there as well, I slammed a Red Bull, grabbed my bladders, my flask, and I was off. You guys were a little behind me, but you caught up. I was moving pretty smooth into that next section, feeling pretty good. Um, yeah, and but the halfway point worked. It went smooth. I feel you though. It felt like I don't know what was mile 18 or 17.
It was close. It was
Right?
like, yeah, right at the 18 and a half point.
Yeah, which is kind of wild because then you're like, if this is the halfway, like, do we have another
I was
17
ready
miles
for
to go?
35 plus
Yeah.
miles that day. I'm like, this is just going to keep going now. Like, and
Yep.
the ending in the park, even though they say it's in a certain field, sometimes it's rerouted a different way to get there, and so actually
That wasn't even
looking at it
clear.
now
Yeah.
though, it's funny. Like, it's like it was fun after the fact looking at it a week later now, because
Of course.
it's like it's an adventure. And like you said, it's ultra running. Like it's trail ultra running. Like you never know what's going to happen out there. Like it is what it is. It's actually kind of fun to maybe be sporadic like that. Like, cause that's the way,
Yeah.
it's just fun. It was fun to kind of just not know.
Yeah, man, that kind of was what happened to me in my 100 miler last year. Like they changed the course and no one knew exactly how much further we had to go. Uh, so it was like, oh my God, let's just hope it's not 116. Let's hope it's 108. Like,
Which is
uh,
good because different
anyway,
people handle that differently. So if you're, again, a resilient runner mentally and physically, where you can adapt to something like that, not let it take over your day, just handle it in the moment, deal with it. It's going to give you a little bit of an advantage later on, because people are now completely like mentally shot from what just happened or a situation, and they're just like throwing everything out the window, like screw this, screw my pacing plan, I'm not going to be able to get my time, and like just like sending it
yeah.
at that point. So the fact that
Well, I think,
and then we had the company with the three of us too, like we were able to hash it out together, because I think there was some choice words we had between each other. The mood changed definitely during that half hour, 40 minutes. Like it was like yay into the park to like we left that park, like you said, Justin saw us and he's like, you guys don't look like well.
we had a level set. We had to get our minds back, right? And then, the halfway point, I think everyone got dialed in, and we headed back out, right? But I think what you like going to that point about the mental piece, right? Like that's where people fail in ultras all the time. Is their expectations do not meet, you know. Yeah, once their expectations are broken, they fall. and that's a big part of just being able to push through and say, okay, we have a new goal, and that's where that it's either compete or complete, you know.
And again, it's that A, B, C goal. I have it in all my races, no matter what the distance is. It's, A goal is I'm finishing this race. Like, I mean, well, one of my third goals, finishing this race. The next goal is where I'm pretty sure a good confident goal based on my training and all the stuff and the work that I put in, that I think on a good day,
Hmm.
controlling the controllables, I should get that result. And then, of course, the little bit of a stretch goal of the all works well, all goes according to plan, pacing plan, the course is marked right, like everything is exactly the way I wrote it down, and I envisioned this over the last couple months, and then you hit that big goal. But like you said, as you start clicking off though, like, oh, that one ain't gonna happen today. All right, we got to remodify this one. Sometimes you may just have to fall back on like, oh fuck,
So
man,
yeah,
it's gonna be a
what I
long
always
one, but
say,
we're doing it.
yeah. So I think C goal is always finish the damn race,
Yeah,
right? And then B is always like a moderate, like conservative. I should be able to do this. And then for me, A is always the one. For me, A is I'm pretty uncomfortable about this goal,
yeah,
but maybe I could pull it off. Um, so yeah, like for this one, I kind of developed my A goal probably the week of, because I was like, really, all I wanted to do was get a PR. I have quite a stack ahead of me, and so I'm like, a PR be great, but I got other things to do. So that yeah, but the A goal for me is just it should feel a little uncomfortable. Like that's the way I look at that one.
yeah. That's something where like all the stars have to align on there, and like you said, when you get to that later part of the race is when like you might be fighting for that goal at that point. Hopefully, you're in the position to be able to go for that, and be able to see where that lands. So things definitely got
Yeah.
interesting after this point. All I remember was I saw you take off. Amy had to go do her thing in the woods real quick, so I was like, "I'll catch you. Don't worry about it." I got my pack together. Saw her right around the corner. We linked up. We caught you. Just a little bit up. You were moving. Like I got on your tail on this, and I was like, "Oh shit, Ryan's got wings right now." And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, if I can. My goal was like at the pace I did the first half. I was supposed to negative split a little bit, run a little harder the second half. But for me, again, like we said, the
Yeah.
goal changes a little bit. I just said if I can hold where I'm at right now for the first half through this race on the
Well,
day I'm having,
yeah.
like I'll feel good for myself.
So when you hollered at me, you said, "Hey, you're looking good right now." And you guys caught up with me, and I pulled back a little bit. I was like, "Okay, it means I'm going too hard." Like I knew I was maybe what I was doing, like probably like a little under nines,
Yeah.
but like you know because I had the same kind of goal, negative split a bit. Um, but then yeah, I pulled back a little bit. But then like it just got real interesting real quick for me. Um, I think maybe we started hitting up towards Mortar Parkway, and I'm like, I gotta pee, and so I peed. I caught you guys. You guys were a little ahead of me then, and then like I kind of got back on your tail a bit more, and then I had to pee again. I'm like, what's going on? And that's where like that was a huge mental punch for me because I started peeing like really dark, like kind of orange brown, and just mentally, like I should have been able to handle it, but for some reason I was like, oh my god, I'm super dehydrated. So all I focused on was just guzzling my water, and stuff, and knowing that like, okay, how much further do I have to the next aid station? What dialing just in my head about the whole, getting hydrated again, even though I didn't feel dehydrated. I just was it just kind of was like a mental punch,
It was
really hard.
definitely warm, and it was another race just like Arizona earlier in the year where I knew it was warm, but for some reason I didn't feel sweaty. It wasn't until after the race when I realized actually how much I did sweat because I was a salty son of a bitch at the end of the race. Even when I
Yeah,
showered afterwards, like
yeah.
I tasted the salt coming off of me, and I was like, damn. That's
Oh, I
what
felt it.
another
Yeah.
reason why I definitely got in the hurt lock a little bit on the last few miles too. But it's like, yeah, you dipped out, came back, and then you're like, I got to dip out again real quick. I said, all right, we'll slow it down just a little bit. Don't, you'll catch up. And then we kind of separated at that
Never.
point. I don't remember what mile that
Yeah.
was, but it was a few miles after that. We probably maybe had like I don't know if it was 8 or 10 miles left in the race at that point. Amy and I kept clicking forward a little bit. At that point, though, just a side note with Amy, the one we were running with, was we found out. and I kind of knew that she was probably in the top three at some point. That as we were passing through that midway aid stop, that third aid stop, that she was the second place female, and they said like, about I think it was 2 minutes up at that point was the next female, and it kind of gave like the shades of our road marathon that we ran with her in January when she was
Yep.
the second place female and we were inadvertently chasing down the first place female at the end. And so that I told her, I'm like, here we go again. Like that helped me because it was like a little motivation for me. Like another, even though like I knew my PR wasn't going to happen for the day, that's fine. But I was still feeling good. I still knew I could have a decent result. But then like that extra little carrot, knowing I'm like, we're gonna find this girl. We're gonna go do this. Like, and she's like, no, it's all
Yeah.
cool. It's cool. You know how Amy, like, that must be her personality. I don't, you've known her for a long
Yeah.
time, but it's just like, don't worry. No, I'm like, no, no, we're finding this girl. Like, we will find her. And and I'm like,
And she was gonna find her.
yeah.
It was a guarantee. She was gonna find her.
And
You know,
the
like,
fact that
and I
somebody
saw you
said
guys.
that the first place female looked a little banged up, at the halfway, like not at peak form, and Amy ran right into the aid stop fine, feeling good. I'm like, if we just stay steady, like I will guarantee you, if we hold our pace for the rest of this race like we are, we will absolutely find this person.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I had my eye on you guys all the way basically into Lakeland. Caught up, Amy had a moment in the woods there where you guys kind of split, right? And I was coming up behind her, and she just kind of thrown up and then was back out. And just a true champ, you know. Just got the work done and kept going.
It is simply
But yeah, then
amazing
from that,
how she literally can't keep going. I told my wife this story after. She's like, "Oh, how'd Amy's race go?" I told her, she had a moment, and she's like, "Did she throw up after the marathon?" I said, "She troops, man." I said, "I don't know how anybody feels that great afterwards," but I literally remember we got into the park, and she's just like, we actually, this is the point when we pass one of the major roads, the expressway, and we head down this road section. We saw the first place female down the road go into the trail, and I said, I looked, I
okay,
didn't, I said, I looked at her. She saw what I saw. I looked at my watch. I didn't tell her at the time when we dipped into the trail. I said we're about a minute 50 behind her. She passed into this trail a minute 50 ago. So I think that got her like that little click, and we maybe went 400 meters, and then she's like, "Hold on a second." I turn around, and she's like, "I think I'm gonna puke," and I'm like, okay, and that was it. Like everything came out, and then it was at that point I'm like, for me, I was at the point in my race where I have to just keep going. Like if I stop, and I know
yeah,
it's not selfish, but I'm like, you were battling. She was starting to battle. I was battling. I just wasn't saying anything. I'm like, if I stop right now and start like, I'll walk a little bit with her. Like I would have been out. Like if I start walking, like I'm
yeah,
done. Like that was gonna be my mind saying like,
yep,
you feel like shit. So I was like, she's like, go, go, go. And I knew she's a trooper. I'm like, she looked good up until the point she threw up. So I knew she was going to come back at it. So my goal was to go catch the first place female and kind of like keep an eye between the two of them. And then that was going into the second to last aid stop was actually when we crossed the street. I caught up going into the aid stop with the first place female. And as we got to the A stop and crossed the main road, I looked back and saw Amy coming into the intersection as the girl was getting her aid. And I was just like, I gave her the look like, let's go. She's right here. And then that was the moment Amy took first. And, she did hold it till the end, which was, phenomenal.
oh, that's
Um,
amazing. That's why she's a champ, man. Just pushes through it hard.
So we were pretty close,
Um,
all of us. We just kind of a little bit separated for the remainder of the race, and
I
you know
think that last bit though, yeah, that last wait, that connect what part, that was the last bit where I got deep. I got about a little bit into connect what, and that's where like I started feeling the muscles kind of fatigue a bit, and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, and my kidney was hurting a bit, and I'm like, oh, here we go. Like I don't know what's happening, but just kept saying move, 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 and I did a couple section spots where I did a walk around, but then I got to third base, and after I got to that last aid station, I just told Justin like, let me get my flask. I just got to hammer this thing home. Um, and then I had a massive lockup, like in Hexture, massive where like I had to hold my nerve down, and I was just like I was preparing myself to just be able to like limp to the finish line, no matter how long it took, because I'm like I don't know what's going on with my leg muscle right now. But I was able to get it back together. As soon as I see people, they help because then you start to say, oh, I could just let me get to that person, and then let me get to that person, and that's how like I really got through it all. Was every time I saw people, I kept picking them off, and that's how I finally got. I just stopped like right before. What if you want to? What was it? How was your third base that last five?
I don't even really remember much from the point. Okay, well, I know actually, yeah, because it was Connecticut, which is a runnable section, and I remember when the last time in 23 for the 50K when with my PR was like I felt good there. Like I was able to pick it up there and run into Heckscher, and the legs just weren't there. And I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, and it was hurting. They were hurting. I was tired. My body was beat up from the week, and but like you said, as the tide rolled out at the front, slowly they started to come back. I'm like, if I just maintain steady, I know all the time at this race that there's people just walking at this point. They've already reached close to a marathon distance. They are just done. And they kind of send it in, and their last few miles, unfortunately, are a little bit slower. So it's like shuffle, just go. And it really wasn't about position for me at that point. It's just like I just want to be done. So if I can stay steady, I'll be done
yeah,
quicker. Because I'm like, if I
yep.
trust me, I wanted to walk the rest of the way, like a lot of, but I'm like, if I turn my 9-ish minutes per mile into 14, 15 minutes per mile, I have to be out here another 40 minutes. I don't want to be out here
Nope.
another 40 minutes. So I
Yeah.
forced through it, saw a few people, one at a time. And that again, that kind of like spring loads you because you're like, I still have a little bit in the tank. I'm still running. And as I looked even in, feeling some pain basically was like, I'm still at like 9 and change per mile. Like I'm still
Well,
running.
that's the thing. Even like as I was locking out, I'm like, I could do a little walk run here and still maintain a 10-minute mile, right? And I'm like, all you gotta do is just maintain that. The lockups at the last 5 mile piece, though I have 2 miles that were just like the cadence stopped, things were bad. But no one was around me at that point. There was just a couple people in front of me. I'm like, I just got to get this together and I can catch and that's what I ended up being able to do. But man, friggin' what an end to that! Like it was just what a grind, and that's what we do. Like to me, like that's the stuff that in the moment it's like this sucks, but like afterwards it's like you think you can't, but once you complete that race and you're like you see it through, it's just another notch in the belt. It's like wow, I could do anything because I felt like towards the end it hurt. It definitely hurt. And I don't think it doesn't matter how fit you are. You could watch these elites; they're hurting. Like they are hurting, and you just push through, and
And
and that's what
honestly,
makes it worth it.
kudos to the people again, because the front of this field was down in the low 4 hours. A big portion of people finish around that 5 hour magical number that they're shooting for. So you get a lot of people beating it, a lot of people
Yeah,
coming up to the 5:20, 5:30 mark like that are in that range. But kudos too, because there's people, if you look in the results, that are out there 7, 8, 9, 10 hours plus. They're feeling it too. And they're feeling it twice as long distance duration wise than you did. Like they felt
yep,
the same feels
respect.
twice as long. So I give them a lot of credit. You might listen and be like,
Uh,
oh, it must be nice to run that fit. Yeah, it still hurts, but like kudos to them because they're out there and it's hurting the same amount. It doesn't hurt any less, that's for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. But yeah, I got my PR. Very happy with that. So B goal, and I got a goal for next year. You know, so I get to move that to next year, and with some more lessons and more tools in the toolbox to work through this distance. And I decided, like this is my 50K like test every year. Let me see where I could get. I think it's a great season opener.
I've been saying it again, fourth time completing the 50K version of this course, and every race has been a little different as far as course, layout, distance, section. So it's never exactly the same. But like you said, it's a great standard locally for that distance.
Yeah.
There's certain races I usually like to repeat just to see like where I'm at, and you can get play with other aspects of it as far as execution of the race and the different. You just get better at the actual pacing of the race, like
And
the
that's the
start to
fun.
finish, which is nice.
And that's the fun of it too, right? Is dialing in, figuring out what works, what don't, trying something different. And then the other aspect that just was so awesome is like we had two, Nikki, Amy, like they both podiumed. We had a bunch of friends out there that just really just had great days. They just knocked it out the park, and I love seeing that too. I think that's one of the best parts of it is like being at the finish line and seeing all your friends and they're cheering you in or you're cheering them in. And, even folks that aren't running, they're coming down to see you because, it's just an amazing community. Um, yeah, that's what makes Shore2Shore so special in my eyes.
Like you said, you see people, even if you don't train with them, you may have done a race or two with them because depending where you live, if you don't link up with them, their progression, like you saw their training. It's awesome to see people throw up an awesome day. There's a lot of people that I've followed on like Strava and seen their progression in their running journey, and the result they put out there was phenomenal that day. Like great for their records and like what they're trying to do for themselves. And then unfortunately, there's some people that had tough days out there. There's people that are just dying to get back after it again, or something happened again. We control what we can control, but the greatest part about
We
endurance
have,
sports is you just never know what the hell's going to happen out there. But to watch people
yeah,
have such a
yeah, of
great day out there, friendly competition with each other is always fun too. As long as it doesn't get to your head,
course.
there's no ego or anything behind it, and you can support the people out there.
Yeah, 100%.
There's people that I race close with in certain distances and types of races throughout the year, and I would give them a pat on the back any day they beat me, just like they would with me. There's certain times, certain days you
Yes,
feel good. But for me, I mean, I told myself a few times with this race, I'm good. I don't need to do it again. I'm just a glutton for punishment, I guess, but I also love good company. So when I find out certain people are doing it and I can go through a training cycle for a race like this, knowing that these people are going to be doing the long runs and I have the ability to go out and do those runs with them, to me, there's just huge strength in that community of it. And that's why I get drawn
yeah,
to, getting out there with you early in the year, usually over the past few years. And for me, this is kind of my ultra finishing for the year. As far as for my season, because I'll change things now, I'll get into a little more multi-sport. But for yourself, you're just getting started, kind of. I'm going to be here being a supporter along the way for your long distance endeavors coming up. I do promise to definitely get
nice.
some of the shorter stuff in with you, and maybe some of that speed work that you got to get done. But what's going to be the next big thing on
You know,
your calendar coming up?
you never know. Maybe I'll jump on a bike with you one day.
You never
The
know.
yeah. So next up is this weekend, a week out from the last effort. I'm gonna go do a road 50K, first road ultra up in Kent, Connecticut. Way I kind of stack, I stack three races because the weekend after, then I have a mountain marathon. It's called Breakneck. It's about I say 9K feet, maybe a little under. Um, and that will be the weekend after. And my goal was to stack these three because in training you never really get a feel for how you're going to feel in 100. And I felt like fatigue, like having this kind of carried over fatigue. As long as I don't get injured, if I do, I'll pull out. I'm not prideful enough to like I'll pull out if I feel like I'm hurting. I'm gonna get hurt. But the goal was to really go into these and just stack these and see how I could do. No real like goal really. I'm not like next week. I'm not trying to get a PR. Just trying to see it through like a long run. Same thing with next one. Get some mountains under my legs, and then that's when the real block starts for the 100. And from there, I have a 53. I have a 100K, my first 100K, and then a solo 100 miler. And those are that's my A race for the year. That's what I'm solely focused. All these are just little bricks that are going to help mentally and physically, help me dial things in so I can be ready for a solo. And yeah, I'm stoked, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that in weeks to come.
Well, definitely. Hopefully, we can definitely link up going forward, I know again we're not going to have many. We did a decent amount of adventures already this year. I'm probably not going to be able to be on any of the bigger adventures coming up soon, since we are going to have kind of separate paths in the races that we have coming up. But it actually might be fun to jump on here and just talk about basically after your races and things
Yeah,
coming as things come up and how maybe that
love
plan
to.
might change. And I always like hearing from you. But any final thoughts and or just a good positive vibe or something you want to tell the people before we kind of wrap this up?
Uh, Listen, congratulations to Nikki on second place and the 50K PR, Amy on the F1. Um, Congrats to you, Ken, for pulling through on a hard day, and to all our friends that crushed. I think we had a great day out there, and let's keep moving. That's it.
And I'd say
Thanks for having me.
anybody in the Northeast, if you want a fast 50K, come on down. We got some fast runners on Long Island that would love to go toe to toe with you, and we'll show you what Long Island trail running and the Long Island endurance community, kind of what that community is all about. So for tonight, we're going to wrap it up. I thank everybody who tuned in here on the YouTube channel. Please, like and subscribe on here if you're watching the video. If you're listening on any of the many podcast channels that this is out there on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, again, thank you again. I love all the positive feedback. Anytime somebody reaches out and, says something about the last episode, it really just motivates me to keep going and putting positive content out there and having people on and listening to their stories as well that have the same mindset. So Ryan, again, much appreciated. Thank you for coming on tonight, and we'll speak to you soon. And
Thanks,
I give
bud.
you the best luck and, going forward in these races. God bless.
All right, thanks a lot. Take care. You
All
have a
right.
good evening.
Take care,
Cheers.
everybody. Stay safe. Stay healthy.
Peace.